We are back with the Unapologetic podcast. My name is Brant Merritt.
Jonathan Woodyard.
And
I'm sorry.
Oh, I cut you off. Go ahead. Here.
Leon Worth, Vice President for Advancement, Class of 93.
See, I was going to tee you up, and you were ready just to jump right in there.
I just figured we were all
The
introducing
instructions
ourselves.
were lacking on the front end for our guest, Mr. Host.
We want to keep it organic.
That's true.
That's right.
Right? So that was a very organic opening.
Part of the fun.
We nailed that.
We succeeded, very much so.
So Leon is our second return guest. We've had Dr. Melson on twice, and now Leon is on twice. And we're excited to talk through a few different things. Probably the main headline piece that we'll talk more about as we go. We're publishing this on a Monday, tomorrow being a Tuesday, and tomorrow is also what?
SBUnited 2025, our second annual SBUnited Giving Day. We used to do Giving Days for many years and ended our last Giving Day before I arrived at SBU in 2021. And then last year we brought it back under the name SBUnited. Bearcat Nation stands as one. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can see our SBUnited t-shirts.
Mine's here. Mine's here.
It's there. You're not wearing
That's
it.
right.
Not wearing
That's right.
But
I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter.
It's just, I get it. There's a style sort of baseline that Jonathan has to maintain.
Right.
That this really, it kind of impedes on that.
I've got to keep up my profile on YouTube.
That's right.
So, yeah.
But we don't want to impede that. But we do want to celebrate SBU and all of our donors and alumni that come around us on our Giving Day. So we'll be talking more about that today for sure. Yes.
Yeah. And one of the things that giving impacts that we'll unpack a little bit is students that go on mission trips. So I thought kind of a fun little thing for us to talk through. It is spring break. We're recording this during spring break. And one of the things that happens during spring break is we send out multiple teams of students to go serve globally. This week we've got students in Paris, students in, is it El Salvador, Guatemala? There's a Latin American
question. There is one.
The Central American team that I'm completely blanking on where it is.
All
a team
those
in
roll
Boston.
up. It's like, why don't they know? All those answer to the Center for Global Connections, which rolls up to the provost. Everybody thinks it rolls up to student life. It does not. And so everybody's asking me, hey, how many teams are there? Where they're going? I'm like, it's actually not my department. But I happen to know all the students going and lead a couple of trips. So, yeah, we have some south. We've got some that are
I think it's Costa Rica. Now that I remember it,
I think that's right.
Yeah. So we have students out and then they're serving. So I thought a fun question for us would be just a favorite memory or memorable moment on a missions trip that you've been on. So just anywhere. It doesn't have to be an SBU trip. Doesn't have to be international. Could be domestic. But all right.
Yeah, I'll go first. So I've been fortunate when I first became a believer to go to a church in Lexington, Kentucky that loved missions, believed in reaching the unreached and taking the gospel to the nations. And so we had a missions pastor at that church. He's actually passed away now. His name was Larry Cranfield, and just had a heart for the nations. This guy that would take you anywhere in the world to share the gospel. And so I became a Christian, started going to that church and got involved in a Bible study, and mission trip opportunity comes up to go to Malaysia. And so here, all these college students were going into Malaysia, into the highlands of Malaysia. We're staying in this little village, and a couple of things that stand out about that trip. The first is when we got to the highlands in this village place we were staying at, they put us in different host homes. And so it was you and one other person go stay with a family. And we stayed in the middle of the woods or jungle or whatever it was on a duck. I mean, it was a duck farm. And so here's this house. And the roof of my room was a sheet stretched from the four corners. That was the roof. And outside are all these ducks. And so you hear all these ducks. And then in that culture, you just kind of eat whatever's put in front of you. So dinner that evening was quite interesting. But I particularly remember breakfast. And when they bring the fish out that's staring at me, I'm like, you know what? I love Jesus and I want you to know the gospel, but that's a bridge too far. So I did not eat the fish.
You offended them.
I may have. I don't think they were offended. I think they were laughing at me. But that trip was pretty amazing to be a relatively new believer at that point, to be in this type of setting with people who didn't know Jesus and being able to share the gospel and just kind of getting that rooted into my bones that, hey, this is important to take the gospel to the nations. The second thing that was important about that trip was that I was on the trip with a girl I was dating at the time. and you're not supposed to like show public affection or whatever. And she wouldn't stop holding my hand. I think that's the way it went. And so we kind of got in trouble for holding hands and doing that sort of thing, sitting with each other on the bus. And at the end of the day, she ended up marrying me. So that was Gina, who you all know. She's the rule breaker. She's the rule breaker. It wasn't me. So that was cool. I had a chance to wrestle a crocodile while there, hold a massive, I think it was a boa constrictor or python, all of that because Gina was there watching. I'm happy to jump into those things, but take to the gospel of the nations, get a wife, mission trip.
There you go. That's not a sort of a promise of mission trip outcomes at SBU.
Well, not a promise, but it could happen.
It could happen.
Yeah. Leon, what about you?
Well, for me, I go back to a mission trip that our family did with our youth group. We lived in Colorado Springs for 19 years, and our youth group for many years in a row would go to Emmanuel Mission in Tecnos Arizona, which is on the Navajo reservation there. And our family, our entire family, all 8 of our girls, Michelle and I, we were able to go with our youth group to be a part of that one summer, and it was amazing. We did daily VBS work. We did a lot of manual labor, helping with a number of projects on the reservation, and particularly at Emmanuel Mission, which includes a private Christian school on the reservation there that's been in operation for decades. And part of what I remember most about that was just how important relationship building over time is in that community. And one of the benefits that we realized in our church group going there on a regular basis, not just every once in a while, was that they were anticipating our coming. The kids especially were remembering names of our youth that were there year after year. And the gospel, it was beautiful to share the gospel there, but it was also an act of patience because that relationship building over time in that culture really opens up the heart to the gospel in many ways. And so it was just a really neat, beautiful thing to see the recognition that happened in so many of those relationships that had been building over time. But it was a real sweet and productive time there.
Yeah, cool to take the whole family. That's pretty neat experience also. When I was at the Baptist Student Union at Mizzou, we kind of the same thing as this, take trips during spring break and things. So one year we did a trip to Charleston, South Carolina. We road tripped it, blew a tire on the trailer halfway there, stayed overnight in a church in Kentucky, Paducah, actually.
Western
First Baptist in Paducah, I think.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But there are a lot of fun things with that trip, just being close to, we had a ton of people that came with us. But there's a ministry, and I'd be curious if it's still there, out of the port in Charleston called Seafarers. And so they would have a facility there at the port, just kind of like a warehouse that they would rent space from. And it's these guys that literally from around the world that are on container ships, and that's just their life, sailing around. And so the Seafarers ministry would set up these places in some of the major ports, and it's a place where the guys could go shower, they could get something to eat, and then just recreation, and then they would do a lesson. So a group of us went there one night. We were helping prepare food, playing basketball with these guys from the Philippines. I think they were all from the Philippines. And then doing a devotional, get to know them, talk about the gospel, and just really build.
Cool.
And it's in a short time period, but just to be exposed to people that are that far away, and they're here, and really giving them a nice break from what they're used to, and as an opportunity to share the gospel with them was a pretty memorable thing on my end. So
cool.
There you go.
It's awesome. It's been pretty astonishing thing. Stunning is another word for it. Encouraging thing to see the students here sign up to go on mission trips. So, our experiences and the impact that a mission trip has had in our own lives. I know for me, it's just kind of changed my life. I think I've been to 24 different countries, and I think all of them but 2 are on mission trips. And to see the world, to see the need for the gospel around the world, and to see the impact in our life, but also to be really excited for students that have an opportunity, knowing that they may go to Costa Rica or a New York, or I'm taking a team to Nepal in May, took a team to Thailand last May, just took 3 students over to New Delhi a couple weeks ago. But to see those are the types of things that can really change their life
Yes.
for ever. And so I think it's just one of the, I don't know if it's one of the best things we do here, but it is certainly an important part of what we do at Southwest Baptist in helping students get out and see the world and learn to be servant leaders, not simply here, but around the world, to serve the least of these, and then to call them to ask and pray things like, Lord, should I live in the United States?
Right.
Should I live here, or should I go elsewhere?
Right.
And not necessarily be a traditional missionary, but should I take my business acumen or the PT degree that I have and go serve people in India or Nepal or China or wherever God may call you? So it's a pretty cool thing to be able to open the eyes of this generation to the world around them.
That doesn't happen without support.
That's right.
Our students get really creative in how they go fundraise themselves, but we also, host giving platform through the advancement fundraising site that your office manages, Leon, and then encourage gifts throughout the year to support either specific trips or just missions in general, because, we know that our alumni and the parents and friends of the students have a heart to really support them through this. I love was it old John Piper sermon when he's trying to, communicate to college students. I'm thinking was the audience of, should I be a missionary or not? It's like a great, if you feel called, go. But if not, then stay here and then hustle and, deliver pizzas and deliver a bunch of pizzas so you can go give your $10 to your friend to go
100%.
Overseas on their missions trip. And just that holistic piece of, okay, if you're not called to go, I think we're all called to support. And so
that's exactly right. And in Baptist history, we're a Baptist school, and Baptist history, Baptists have a long history of partnering together for what some have called in Southern Baptist world this kind of one sacred effort. Like, we want to reach the nations. Why have we created this thing called the Southern Baptist Convention? A lot of people would say for the purpose of mission, cooperating together. So the International Mission Board sends missionaries, but it takes 45,000 churches giving to the cooperative program, and those funds being hundreds of millions of dollars being used to support those who are on the field. So I think that kind of holding the rope, if you go back to the 1800s, William Carey's going to the mission field, but you had somebody like Andrew Fuller saying, I'm going to hold the rope, basically. I'm going to hold the rope as you go down. And we need those people. So if you're not called to move to the Bolivian jungle, but to stay in Bolivar, Missouri, that's okay. But work and labor, not so that you can simply buy more stuff, but so you can give to your local church and give to missions and help people take the gospel to the nations. All of us are called to make disciples, Matthew 28, to be witnesses to the world, Acts 1:8. But that just looks different in your life and my life than maybe somebody called to Madagascar.
Yep. And that does, in that same conversation, giving to SBU builds toward a lot of those things. So if we start on just SBUnited Giving Day,
right,
in particular, that encompasses a whole bunch of things, not just trying to help students go on mission trips, but trying to support the whole mission of SBU,
right,
which includes having an office that helps coordinate students to go on mission trips, which includes employing staff and faculty that can help sponsor and lead trips. That includes, just the culture where students can get fed into and be inspired to go on trips, in addition to all the other things that we do on campus. So if I was going to give you the platform plug for SBUnited, let's just start there. It's going to be tomorrow. It's our all-day giving day. What are some of the things that have built up to it? What would be sort of the main message you'd have for people getting ready for that tomorrow?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. First of all, I think it's an opportunity for us to begin instilling an active attitude towards generosity and giving, even within our students. So, we talk about how sometimes these are the first mission trip opportunities for these students, their first opportunity to go and serve. It's also, in many ways, for many of them, it's the first time they've ever had to fundraise for something and become actively engaged, and to see how someone's support and generosity out here affects and impacts not just them personally, but the people that they wind up serving in those opportunities. When I was a student, and I'm sure this is true for probably 99.9% of students who go to a college like SBU, we're blissfully unaware of how much of our experience at SBU is really made possible by donors. And so SB United, in one sense, is a way for us to educate even our own campus community about the vital importance of generosity and donations from alumni, from parents, from family and friends, corporations, foundations. So SB United really becomes a day for us to concentrate as a focal point on the importance of giving to SBU. What we will be doing in that 24-hour period are counting all gifts to any designations, any programs, or unrestricted gifts that come in as well that support most significantly the financial aid that we can offer to students at all of our campuses, all of our programs that are part of the SBU family, if you will. And so it's an opportunity for us to begin to expose our students, because we'll have a presence in the student union on Tuesday, and getting them involved perhaps with some minor size donations. It's really less about the size of the gift than the act of giving, but also using their platforms to tell their family and friends about how important SBU is to them and how grateful we would be if they would come alongside us and support us. The other opportunity it affords us is really to shine a light on so many different ways that people can come alongside SBU and support us, whether that's academic programs, maintenance and support for our grounds, whether it's missions trips, whether it's what we call our unrestricted scholarship fund, our annual scholarship fund. All of that is coming together. And so it gives us a platform to be able to shine a light on all of that, and at the same time prayerfully invite people to join us in that and stand with us.
Do we have a numeric goal or amount of money we're shooting for? Is that something we do?
We do. So we have a goal. Last year, to give a little bit of context, in 2021, the last time we did one before last year, 3 years prior to last year, we raised about $40,000. So our goal last year was to double that, and we did almost make that. We came just shy of $80,000 from about 177 donors last year. This year, our goal is $100,000 and a donor goal of 150 donors. Now, one of the things that's been really special about this year is, as we've been sharing our vision for SB United Giving Day with some of our generous donors, alumni, trustees, they've actually made commitments to us to match the gifts that come in on SB United Giving Day. Up to $25,000, the first $25,000 will be doubled, matched dollar for dollar by the generosity of those donors. And then we also have a very generous match of another $25,000 when we exceed 150 donors for the day.
Oh, wow.
So when we're getting really close to that 200 donor goal, that will unlock another $25,000. So we would love to not just meet, but far exceed, by God's grace, the $100,000 goal that we have this year.
Yeah, amazing.
So make sure I'm clear. We get 150 donors, no matter the amount of money.
That's right.
We hit that number 150 people donate on that day.
That's right.
That'll unlock $25,000.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right. The other fun thing that we're doing, and we started this last year, we're continuing it this year, is we've incorporated Giving Day into our annual Bearcat Cup competition. So when a donor gives online, they can actually, as a part of the giving process, they can select a dorm that would receive credit or points for their donation. So we'll actually, the student life, residence life, will be awarding points to the dorms based on which dorms get the most donors, no matter the size of the gifts, and also which donors or which dorms are associated with the most dollars that come in. So it's another fun way to just kind of incorporate the friendly competitive spirit.
Friendly
Competitive spirit of the Bearcat Cup.
Yeah, and sort of amplifying that point, it's not which dorm has the most of their students give, it's which dorm has the most people interested in supporting that dorm.
Right.
Mark it on the form to give. So it could be
Correct.
students. And to your
Correct.
point, I got a $5 gift from a student who marks that, gets as many points for number of givers as someone who writes $1,000 check.
That's right.
For that dorm.
That's right.
But to really sort of put the point on, like, hey, we want participation is a huge piece of it. I mean, the dollar amount matters, and we'll talk about
Sure.
things that we're trying to fund with that, but the participation is as important,
Right.
As that piece goes. So what's kind of the kickoff look like tomorrow? I mean, it's going to be running all day. There's a page that's going to track gifts. Like, what are some of the things that you'll be doing throughout the day tomorrow?
Yeah, so there'll be online activity with social media. We're going to be reminding everyone within our social media spheres and encouraging them to share that within their spheres of influence as well. So there'll be a lot of activity on social media that you'll see. We'll have some email blasts that are going out to certain segments of our constituency as well throughout the day, reminding folks to come on to the website on our landing page, check out the status of things, how things are going. And then we'll also, as I said earlier, we'll have a presence on campus too at the Student Union, and we'll have a photo wall there for students to take photos and post on social media. We'll be giving away SBUnited t-shirts while supplies last. And also we'll be taking donations there as well, cash or check or online. There'll be ways for people to give online there as well. Last year we had people come to campus from the community that had heard about it and wanted to see what it was all about and get a t-shirt if they could. And so that was a lot of fun.
T-shirts always help.
Oh yeah,
that's for sure. Everyone wants a t-shirt, except
Absolutely.
for Jonathan doesn't want a t-shirt.
I like t-shirts.
Just not today. It's not a t-shirt day for Jonathan.
Okay.
Would have felt funny.
I might see if we can fit in
I'll
one
never
more,
live it
one
down,
more
but
jab
that's okay.
before this episode's over.
There you go.
So anything else on Giving Day you'd want to touch on with what's happening tomorrow?
Well, just a reminder that any gift to any program really helps. But one of the things we focus on primarily during Giving Day is our unrestricted annual scholarship fund. And I think it's really important for us to remember, 99% of our students need and receive financial aid of some kind while at SBU. And the annual fund really helps, well, in a couple of ways. I mean, if you're getting financial aid from SBU, the unrestricted scholarship fund is a part of what's funding that. As a matter of fact, we count it in our budgeting process every year. We're counting on the Lord providing through our alumni and supporters funds through that unrestricted giving that are going to help alleviate the cost of that financial aid. But here's another way to think about it. Even a family who doesn't receive any or very much financial aid in their process of coming to SBU still benefits, because every dollar raised through that unrestricted giving is a dollar less that we have to incorporate into tuition and fees, right? And so really it's relief for the cost of education at SBU. It increases access and increases affordability, which is a big part of what we've talked about before, social mobility through earning a degree at SBU and being able to lift your socioeconomic status, if you will, in life. So that also means then that these are students coming through SBU that's just that much less that they also have to incur in debt. So it's really important. Last year we were super blessed after several years of decline in our annual giving, our unrestricted annual giving. We were actually up about 28%. We praise God for that. Yeah. But we still have a ways to go to get back to pre-pandemic levels. Pre-pandemic, we were usually somewhere around the 400 to 600,000 plus. In many of those years, we would receive an annual gift from a foundation that would give like $175,000 of that was just from that one foundation alone. And that foundation a few years ago made the strategic decision to stop giving to higher education. And so we, like a lot of other schools that were receiving that benefit, that vanished. Well, thankfully last year, a lot of donors came alongside us and kind of bridged that gap, but we still have more to go to get back to that pre-pandemic level. When you take that and layer on top of that the great news that we were up in enrollment this year 4% for the first time in 12 years across all campuses, all programs, we have a good problem, and that is we have more students who need more help. And so this is a great opportunity for us to come alongside them and put our, stand together, stand united, SBUnited, and put our resources together to help keep SBU as accessible and affordable as possible.
That's good.
Yeah, and I'm assuming, this is me assuming, that it's maybe not common language out in the public when we talk about restricted versus unrestricted giving. So just maybe like a quick sidebar on that piece. If we talk about restricted giving, it's someone who says, okay, I love the computer science program. I'm going to give $5,000 to the computer science program,
Right.
so that students in the computer science program can have some financial aid support. And that is great. Like, we don't want to turn away anybody who wants to give, but it does restrict how those dollars can be used. We may have, and I don't know the ins and outs, we may have enough funds to support all the computer science students that we already have. And so that $5,000 is a great sort of cherry on the top of helping that program. But an unrestricted gift to the annual scholarship fund then allows any student in any program on any campus who needs support, those funds are available to help offset those tuition dollars for them.
That's exactly right. Unrestricted is essentially the donor saying, use it where it's needed most. Yeah. And the number one answer for where it's needed most in our case is to help with financial aid, with the cost of opening the doors to as many students as possible through our financial aid assistance. So, but that's exactly right. Both are extremely important, and we welcome both. And on SBUnited Giving Day, we welcome both. There's opportunities when you click through to the giving page. You can pick some of the options that we have at the top, or you can click on the box that says "Show me all designations and giving opportunities," and you can see a whole host, including our missions trips, but a whole host of other designated or restricted gifts that you can make.
And you can give to multiple one of those, right?
Absolutely.
You can give to the general fund, and then, hey, you know what? I also want to support this mission trip, or I want to support computer science or whatever.
That's right.
You don't have to give to one thing.
And believe it or not, like, you can give on SBUnited Giving Day, and you can give another time during the year. It doesn't have to just be tomorrow.
That's exactly
What a
right.
novel thought that is.
That's exactly right. In fact, you can also, on SBUnited Giving Day, you can also choose a recurring donation option so that you can set it up for monthly or quarterly or that kind of a thing as well. So
and I don't want to be sort of self-aware on this. We don't want this to be infomercial of just give to SBU and here's our donation day tomorrow. But I think it's a real, maybe we don't talk about it enough in the right context. This is a real important part of the mission of SBU flourishing, of students being able to study in a setting that is Christ-centered and building not just their professional career, but their whole person, building a certain kind of student.
Yeah, you have to put this in the context of the mission, right? It's not simply like, hey, we want your money. Well, we're not shy about that. It takes money to support the mission of this educational institution. It takes money to support your local church. It takes money to support any number of things. And so we're not shy about that at all, but you have to think about it in terms of mission. We're not taking your money so that we can simply have new t-shirts, right? We want to support students. We talk about being a student first university. We want students, you mentioned the socioeconomic status, students moving up that ladder, seeing them better themselves and set themselves up for success in the future. We want to shape a certain type of person, and it takes resources to do that, to turn the lights on, to heat the buildings, to cool the buildings, to cook the food, all the things that we do, to pay your professors and to have TVs and technology and the different things on the campus. It takes resources. And so it's not giving to an administration. It's giving so that students can be shaped into certain types of persons that can flourish in this world and make a difference for Jesus. And so whether you're talking giving to the local church or giving to an educational institution, you should put that in the context of the mission that we've been given, and that's to raise up a generation to help them make a difference for Christ in this world. And so you should put this discussion in that context, not simply in we want money.
That's right. And for alumni, I think it's easier for us to think back on the difference that the mission of SBU made on our lives, right? A big part of it is when I'm talking to alumni and helping them understand whether they, like me, didn't see it when we were students or not, is that our experience is funded by more than just the tuition and fees that we paid. Yeah. It's funded by those donors that on whose shoulders we stand now. When I was here as a student, I was experiencing rich discipleship and friendship and mentorship from faculty and staff who were funded in part by donors, right? To your point. And so for us to be able to remember that and reflect on that as alumni in particular, I think is important so that it becomes, it is part an act of worship, it's part an act of generosity, but it's also a big part in many big ways, an act of gratitude for the way that this institution, the mission of SBU that has been around for now 147 years, even impacted me.
Yeah, that's good. I think putting it in the category of love of neighbor, right? So how can I love my neighbor? This is a tangible way for you to love your younger neighbor as you're helping them get a college education. And the reality is, and you guys know the numbers better than I do, but the cost of post-high school collegiate education is astronomical. I mean, it is rising every year. And so to be able to lean in and say, hey, we know that it costs a lot of money. We know that those costs are going up, and God has blessed us with this experience. And now maybe with some financial means where we can help offset some of that cost.
Well, and for us in particular too, you think of a state school like Missouri State or something like OTC that maybe either real or perceived. OTC's case, certainly, real. They have pretty low cost options. Missouri State, we're fairly on par if you actually crunch the numbers and consider all financial aid, but they're getting millions upon millions of dollars of subsidies from government to operate their programs. And like, we don't have subsidies. I mean, we're blessed with a great relationship with Missouri Baptist Convention that provides resources to help support SBU, but our, outside funding isn't coming from a state budget. So that's really where giving through SBUnited or throughout the year is such a critical piece for us to be able to continue the mission, in a market that has, competitors, frankly, that have other sources of revenue that we don't. So
Right.
Sort of adds more emphasis to it. But you mentioned alumni. As part of this messaging is alumni participation, getting alumni to feel great about the mission and get plugged in and support and be really involved. There's a lot of other things out of the advancement office you all have been doing, some of which on the marketing side we've been able to help with. To re-engage alumni, if that's maybe the right way to say it. So what has been some of that work? What's some of the things you've been really encouraged about seeing over the last year or so?
Well, and let me tie this answer back to something that you both were just mentioning, and that is, yes, the cost of higher education is high, but that also puts pressure on us, but it also, from another perspective, creates opportunity for us to demonstrate good financial stewardship.
Yes.
Because people want to support something that, it has demonstrated wisdom in how they're going to handle the resources that someone is willing to share with them, right? And through the last several years, we've gone through some pretty challenging times financially as an institution. We've had to make some adjustments in advancement through those years, and some of that impacted the way in which we were able to engage with alumni over the last few years. So now we're getting to a point where we've realigned some of our resources and even some of our staffing in the advancement area. We've hired a couple of new folks here just within the last year to serve as a director of donor and alumni relations, serve as a director of development. And that's giving us some opportunities to, as you said, re-engage more faithfully and regularly with our alumni. So there's a few different ways that we're doing that. The first is that we kicked off a new monthly e-newsletter called Alumni Insider just a few months ago. And if you're listening to this and you're an alumni, you're one of our alumni and you're not receiving that, please reach out to us and let us know. There may be a couple of reasons why that could be the case. We may not even have your most recent email address, but we want to make sure that all of our alumni are getting that who want to get that. So we're sending that.
Just thinking of that, if they go to the main website, click alumni at the top, that would take them to your site where they could provide updated information.
Right, and there's a link called Keeping in Touch. That's probably the best way for them to give us their latest contact information. We're also resurrecting in a new format the SBU Life magazine, and your team and our team are working on that, and that actually should be coming out here in a digital format in just a few weeks. And we're going to be, we may not have the same frequency that we used to have with the printed magazine, but we will have multiple issues coming out over the year. We're really excited about some of the fun content that we'll be highlighting in there, looking at alumni, faculty, and staff, some of the great news that's happening on campus that we want to make sure our alumni know all about. And then we're also we're also working on improving our alumni events in a couple of different ways. So homecoming is one of those. When I came back to SBU, one of my goals was to improve upon the rich traditions that we have at homecoming and really incorporate some things that felt that elevated that sense of celebration and gratitude for our alumni. And so one of the things we did as an example is we created a new event on Friday evenings called the Southwest Baptist Celebration. And part of what we do in celebrating together, we spend a little time worshiping together. This is after the annual banquet, alumni banquet. We do, for our reunion classes, we do a 2-minute retrospective video that just shows from yearbooks and newsletters some of the photos of the past, and we highlight what was happening in the world when you were at Southwest Baptist and what was happening here on campus while you were here. And it is so fun and so celebratory. So we're incorporating events and activities like that into homecoming. We also just this last Saturday, we did a big alumni event in Branson for the premiere performance.
Yeah, the first night,
opening night. Opening performance of David at Sight and Sound Theater in Branson, and it was amazing. I wholeheartedly recommend it. Very moving, very entertaining. It's better than from people who I know have gone to Broadway productions in New York, as have I. It rivals those productions.
And they let us put a booth up there. Did I see that?
We had a table in the lobby, right, where we welcomed everybody and we gave them some snacks for the performance and got a chance to mill around and visit there. And then we were all seated in the upper back, which may not sound like the best seats, but they actually are at Sight and Sound Theater because you have the main stage, but you also have these side stages where a lot of activity is happening back and forth. You get to see the animals that are part of the program, that are the part of the musical that come in and up the aisles. And it was wonderful. It was fantastic. So we're looking to do those. We have done also events with the Kansas City Royals, the St. Louis Cardinals, and we're looking to do events like that as well. We'll probably do like one big event like that every year. We're also looking to bring back some of the regional events, which is a bit of a challenge because from a resource perspective, it helps when we have alumni in the area who raise their hand and say they would like to help us plan it, maybe even help make it happen financially a little bit. That's always really helpful as well. So we're looking for opening some opportunities for some events like that as well. And then the last thing, just to do a little pitch for this too. We are right now in the nomination season for our annual alumni awards that are given at homecoming. And that's the Life Service Award and the Edwin Lightfoot Distinguished Alumni Award. So if you go to advance.sbuniv.edu/awards, you'll see a summary of those two awards and you can click through to the nomination forms for those awards.
Are there, like on that, when you're nominating people, are there requirements like this person has to have graduated so long ago?
Yeah, the criteria are all listed there. Before you get to that nomination page, you'll see the criteria for that. Yeah.
And I also know we're still actually all three of us in the planning stages for the Southern Baptist Convention in Dallas, but the alumni reception, which we usually host there. We're thinking of some creative ways to maybe elevate that.
That's a to-do list for me, as I forgot. I have to follow up with somebody.
Well, suffice it to say that yes, we're looking at what we've done historically has been very, very fun, and we've gotten some great attendance. It's usually just a very low-key dessert reception. We've had Dr. Melson share some really great campus updates for maybe using PowerPoint slides for a few minutes as well, but very low-key. But this year, we're actually thinking about how can we bring more value to that event and maybe elevate through maybe some special guests, some special topics that we can talk about with our alumni and friends that come to that, because it really is open to friends of SBU as well.
Are we able to mention what we're thinking about talking about?
Well, yeah, I think we want to talk about Christian higher ed and just kind of the state of it, and what are maybe some voices that could speak into that. Obviously, Dr. Melson, our president, is very well versed in it, but I think we're trying to think through other ways that we can make that a really engaging topic and help people get a good sense of. I know he does a great job of sharing in his updates what the landscape looks like, but the landscape is broader than what SBU is experiencing, and sort of speaking to the value of Christian higher education, which is this whole conversation. Why support? If you think about the Southern Baptist Convention and state Baptist conventions that do give significant amount of money to support educational institutions, I think you can never talk about the value of it enough, especially in a culture that doesn't have a lot of what we offer in it. So that's what we're thinking. We'll see what we can pull together for that. And it's the second week of June. The 10th the
June
13th,
10th, 11th, 12th, whatever that. The Sunday, Monday is the pastors' conference, and then business Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah. So we do have a lot of alumni in Dallas and the Texas area. So we'd be looking forward to seeing a lot of people come through the booth, if not at the reception.
Right.
Yeah. Anything else, Leon, as we wrap up, of things that are happening in your office or just messaging for alumni that you'd like to have people on their radar, or what else is going on?
I'm just very mindful in the work that I have the privilege of doing here at SBU, just how utterly dependent we are on the Lord. And it's so easy to say that, but when you're looking over time, and I know you probably face the same thing as you're watching our enrollment funnel go from interested to applied to admitted to deposited to I'm actually here.
You're in a seat. Yeah.
There in our work, when we have eyes to see it clearly, we see just how utterly dependent we are on the Lord for everything that we have. And so I think my closing message would be, please join us in praying that the Lord will provide what we need, that'll provide more than we can expect or even dare to dream, that we will be continually committed, as we are, to spending and using those resources wisely in a way that brings honor and glory to the Lord. It is something that can sound cliche, but like I said, when I'm watching the numbers throughout the year, and I'm seeing, like right now through February, for instance, all giving to the colleges up about 12% through the end of February over last year through the end of February. That's wonderful. And we praise God for that. We have gone through some challenging years where we weren't always up in our giving, but I just come face to face every day with the beautiful reality of how we are dependent on the Lord. And I don't want to make it cliche at all, but genuinely inviting people, pray with us that the Lord will provide what we need so that this mission, this institution, which is a beautiful and effective place for the Lord, as I and so many others can attest through the decades, through the almost centuries.
Right. Yeah.
That this mission can continue.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that's the amen part, right?
Yeah.
Well, I know I'm super thankful for your work and the team that you've built and all that they're doing to support not only SBU, but support alumni, because we do want alumni to feel included and
Absolutely
part of the whole process. And so a lot of the things that you're doing are bringing them in, and we're thrilled to support that. So again, this is posting on Monday. Tomorrow is SBUnited Giving Day. So if you go to our website or go to advanced.sbuniv.edu, follow any of our social media. As Leon mentioned, we'll have stuff throughout the day to keep you engaged. And you can also kind of follow we still have the map that's going to turn purple. Is that
yes,
okay?
that will be there. And the URL for the landing page itself is advance.sbuniv.edu/SBUnited.
Okay.
All one word.
That's great.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Leon. And we will be praying for a very successful SBUnited Giving Day tomorrow. And we will be back next week with another episode of the Unapologetic
Do you know what we're doing
Podcast.
or who we're talking
I don't
to?
know yet. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
It'll be fantastic.
It's going to be
Yes.
amazing. It's going to be amazing. Maybe it's just me and you. I don't know.
We might. We could at least do we'll at least do a little recap on Giving Day, because
Oh,
we'll know
100%.
some results
That's
from it too.
Yeah, so by the time we record this next week, you'll know the numbers or roughly we'll be able to get them or no.
Well, if you're recording this time next week, I might.
Yeah, we'll see.
We might at least
We'll
know
have some. We'll know
donor
something.
numbers. Yeah, like how many people.
There actually will be some gifts that still trickle in
That's
that
right,
were
through the
mailed
mail.
in
Yeah.
through the mail.
There's still a big part of that too. You're right.
Yeah. So
We'll have something we can
we'll
talk
have
about.
something
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening, and we will be back next week.